marketing.
The Canadian Bro Show, bring us together. Share the stories that define us. In the echo of our laughter, we trust.
And you sit down with AI, you said? Amazing.
Oh man, I just come on, just feel that Britpop. Oh man, that's so fun.
That's going to the top of everybody's playlists.
Oh, I'm telling you, it's captivating. And that was done with the help of my old teammate from the British Basketball League over almost 30 years ago when we played together at Newcastle Eagles. Mr. Chris Wright, who is going to be.
Thank you so much, Chris. Great job.
Yeah, Chris, he has this wonderful software, and I asked him for like a little Brit pop action, and this is going to be our theme song to. So we've got a new theme song, we've got a new backdrop, we've got a new logo, and we have a new show. Welcome to the Canadian Bro Show, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Paul Bale. I'm the founder and host of the Canadian Bro Show, and the very handsome, charismatic, and talented writer that's sitting to my left and your right is the legend, the only Mr. John Leister, the co-host of the Canadian Bro Show. Johnny, how are you in Vancouver at the Vancouver Library in your studio? How are things?
Well, we're enjoying one of Vancouver's notoriously brief summers. It's 26 degrees Celsius for our American friends out there. It's about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. And just living the dream. I love the new theme song. How are you, bro?
I'm good, thank you. I'm in Kelowna. We are filming live for the show, but the show won't be on. We've got 2 in the can. And our latest episode, if you're interested, we've got a fabulous episode approaching 70 views in the last 2 days, where we're interviewing our old friend for part 2, very renowned and award-winning, talented writer who lives currently in California and is Canadian as well, Jonathan J. Brown. That episode, if you're interested, is on right now. It's day 3. So I encourage you to go out. It's a heartwarming part 2 of 2 interviews that Johnny and I did. Today's interview, we wanted to go back to my comfort zone, so to speak, and I haven't really sort of focused on one aspect of what I do in my real job. And as much as I love my Canadian Bro Show and this show, this has been a goal of mine for about 15 years, and to be able to have Johnny and Trent and various other wonderful people involved, it's been an exciting journey so far, and looking forward to continue the content. But today's episode, episode 45, is quite remarkable, is going to be the entering the Great White North, understanding all things Canadian real estate, interviewed by Johnny Leister himself, with the founder and host Paul Bale, answering as many questions as he can about real estate in Canada.
It's all about Pauly today.
Well, and it's not really. It's all about the Canadian Bro Show. And of course, if you get any sort of information or education or enjoyment from this entertainment, it's free. We really appreciate the subscribe. When this goes on to the YouTube channel in the next week or so, at the very bottom where Johnny is, there'll be a subscribe button. Just scroll over it, subscribe. We really appreciate it. Johnny, we're at 70 subscribers right now. We have 430 to go. And when we started this channel about 8 months ago, we had 3, 4, maybe 5 subscribers. So, for all of those out there that have taken the time to subscribe, we really appreciate it. But in the meantime, Johnny, take over the reins of the show. What would you like to know about Canadian real estate? What don't you know about Canadian real estate?
Pretty much everything.
Well, then you're the perfect person to interview.
What I know could fill the eye of a needle. Let's put it that way.
So what would you like to start off? You want to start off with, what do you have in mind? You want to figure out?
You are, as we discussed in the pre-interview, a realtor. What exactly does a realtor do?
Well, a realtor is a licensed individual in Canada. we have various organizations that oversee. As an example, in Canada, we have an organization called CREA, CREA, and that is the Canadian Real Estate Association, and it's a sort of a governing board that oversees Canada's real estate, from basically from the Maritimes to the west coast here, where you are in Vancouver. I'm in the Okanagan Valley, not too far from you, just a few hours in Kelowna, and of course up north in Nunavut and Yukon, Canada's second largest country in the world, and they do a pretty damn good job of keeping all of the provinces aligned under the umbrella of CREA. Now, each individual province in Canada has its own way of doing business within that province. So, specifically, I am licensed in British Columbia. You can be licensed in more than one province, although very difficult unless you had a huge team where you had lots of people that you could, you know, you could just send leads to, and they'll take care of the lead, and you work as a team. But I work as a solo realtor in British Columbia. British Columbia is massive, and I am a licensed real estate agent. And what that means is that I have a very detailed educational background through the Sauder School of Business at University of British Columbia, which is extremely difficult to get into. They've made it extremely much more difficult to get into the industry because they're trying to weed out the part timers. And essentially, I'm a full time realtor. However, when I started in real estate, Johnny, and I'll talk more about being a realtor as the show goes on and the questions keep coming. But
Mm.
I actually, prior to being a realtor, I was an investor first. Upon retiring from playing professional basketball in Europe in 1999, 2000, I went and ran a hostel in St. Ives in Cornwall in the UK,
Wow.
for about 8 months, and then I hopped on a one way flight to South Beach, and I worked under the table in the hospitality industry because I was an American. And for the first time in my life, I was a minority in three different ways. I was non-American, I was heterosexual, and I was white in a place like South Beach, which was
The other.
I'm telling you, it's a very special place, and that's where I met my wife, and we moved back to Vancouver. And initially, coming back from Vancouver after playing professional basketball for the better part of 7 years, lived in Canada for the off season, the 6 months of my off season, but worked as a professional basketball player, getting paid to play basketball, which was a really incredible job.
That is incredible.
It is
Not very
small
many people
window of
get paid to do what they
opportunity.
love to do the most.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
started playing professional basketball at 30 and I finished at 37. It's very unusual, but I'm glad I had the opportunity. And not many people do, especially when you're a short, old, white, at that time, Canadian basketball player. A lot of people don't even realize it was invented by the sport was invented by a
Yeah.
Canadian.
I didn't know that either. Good
Yeah,
call.
lacrosse and hockey, and as well in Canada. But getting back to real estate, I had to work really hard with my wife, who was just on a visa, and I said, "Look, this is what we got to do. We need to get married." And I need to give you, I'll give you an option when we get married because you need to get legal and I need to get working. And because being out of the country, you don't have any credit rating. So my goal was to get into real estate as soon as possible. And it took me 3 years from arriving in 2000. It took me 3 years and five jobs later,
Wow.
of saving enough money and marrying my wife and getting her legal and getting her the process of being a landed immigrant and Canadian and so on, and getting her to help work and build our what we have now, a very modest real estate portfolio. And the first goal was to save enough money to be able to buy our first place. So I managed to do that in 3 years. We bought our first condo in East Vancouver, in Mount Pleasant East, and we held that for 4.5 years. And at that time, I was in the hospitality industry, and I was working at Wild Rice, which is my friend Andrew Wong's restaurant. and Tom, his partner, and I really wanted to get out of the hospitality industry. I had to go back into it. I'd been in it prior to being a professional basketball player for 28 years. It was my first trade, but I did not want to at in my late 6 or 30s want to stay in the hospitality industry. I feel it was burnt out. And it was a very, very fun industry, but that fun was more of a detriment as I got older than it was when I was younger, of
You
course.
mean physically or
Yeah,
emotionally?
physically, mentally, emotionally,
The whole shebang?
everything. It's a very tough industry. You're in the service industry. You understand that, of course.
Sure.
And so the next step would, of course, my wife said, "Look, what are you going to do?" Because I cracked a couple of ribs playing basketball, and I had to go on UI, and I was out of the hospitality industry, and I was like, what am I going to do? Well, my wife said, obviously, you're going to get your real estate license, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Now
It was her idea.
in 2008 was the collapse of the financial market globally because of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac down to our southern neighbors, and the gong show that just keeps on giving down there. In 2008, it was a global catastrophe, and I got my license at the worst possible time, and or the best possible time, because sometimes in adverse situations,
Right.
you
Chaos
know,
creates opportunity.
absolutely, absolutely. But I was scared and very nervous, and I took the course, and I proceeded to fail the course miserably the first
Oh,
time,
really? I
and
didn't
I
know
was
that.
panic stricken, and it was a lot harder than I expected, and had 25% of the 1,000 questions and 100 different exams that they give out are all math orientated, and math was never my greatest strength. So
You
I
know?
was really up against it. I was, sitting at home, and it was a really tough time, and essentially I never gave up. I hired a professional to help me through the course, and cost me money, and
Oh,
he was
that's good
great.
advice.
Yeah, absolutely,
Get a
and
mentor.
absolutely, and it cost me $1,000, but Fred Nathwani was he's passed, unfortunately. Rest in peace, Fred. He was awesome.
I'm sorry.
Loved basketball. And when I failed the first time, I got 45 out of 100, which the pass was 65. And I was really depressed. And called up Fred. I said, "Look, Fred, how do I get this real estate license?" He goes, "Look, I'm starting another course tomorrow. Come by. Don't pay for it again. We'll get you through it." And he did. And he was so kind enough to let me take the course again. I already paid for it once. Didn't have to pay for
He
it
was
again.
probably impressed with your passion and dedication.
Yeah, and he loved the fact that I was a basketball player, and he was a really big, huge basketball fan, and I'm a hoop junkie, of course. So, anyways, I took the course again, and because of Fred, gave me the opportunity, and I went in and passed it the second time, and going on 17 years later, I'm a licensed realtor. I'm now also an investor of my own modest portfolio. I won't get into that; that's more of a private nature. But I am a landlord of two of the properties, and I've been a landlord for 22 years.
Wow.
I don't wish that upon anybody. In fact, if you're thinking about
Sounds like a
being
lot of
uh,
responsibility.
right, if you're thinking about being a realtor in British Columbia, I would really talk to you in real time. If you're interested, reach out to me, and I'll try to talk you out of it. Because
That's nice.
there, there is in 2008 to 2009, there was 12,000 realtors left the industry, and within a year.
Wow. That's quite an
And
exodus.
yeah, and it's a very, very challenging industry. But here I am, 22 years later, still in the game. And Johnny, what is your next
Okay.
question?
Who are some of your role models?
Well, that's a great question, and I really love it. When I was playing basketball, a couple of my teammates were savvy real estate investors,
Oh,
and one of them was Martin Henlon. He was the big 6'11" center on our team, my last team, the London Towers in the British Basketball League, and we won everything that year. Martin and I'd always sit on the bus, and Martin would see me coming, and he goes, "Oh, here comes Bale, man." And it's just going to inundate me with real estate questions for the next 8 hours as we're driving from Worthing to Newcastle, or wherever we're going, London to Newcastle or back. And he was very kind and generous, and he owned a number of properties, and I read books, and I took courses, and there was a Canadian chap. His name is Ozzie Jurek. He was my first mentor. but my first teammate mentor as a player was Martin Henlon in the BBL. But before that, when I attended Simon Fraser University with my old friend Michael Bashinsky in 1988-89, Stan Stewartson was the head coach of Simon Fraser. He's a legend. And his assistant coach is Jay Trano, who's been in the NBA as a coach and player. He got drafted way back in the day, was the assistant coach. And I was a huge fan of Jay Trano. And Jay learned everything about real estate from Stan Stewartson. Stan Stewartson is a very successful real estate. So between Stan Stewartson and Martin Henlon and Jay Triano, and then all of the books and Ozzie Jurek, those were my mentors. And Ozzie is to this day my main mentor. But I also follow one of my colleagues who's a very talented realtor, and his name's Steve Soretsky. And I joined his channel about 10, 12 years ago when he was starting off. And every Monday I look forward to his episodes. He's extremely intelligent. And
Go on YouTube.
in this industry, Johnny, like in any industry, education is everything. It's paramount. And
Right.
and the real estate industry is changing at such an accelerated level. You're always chasing technology and the new rules and updated forms and policymakers and politics. It's an absolute slugfest. And it's almost like if you see the Zack Snyder film when we do our movie review series, and you go watch Zack Snyder's 300,
Oh,
and
wow.
and you
Bloody.
see 300 up against 10,000, and that's how you feel in real
Mm,
estate. Sometimes it's really, it can be a very diabolical, but it's also extremely rewarding, and it can be extremely fulfilling. However, 80% of the business is done by 20%. So everybody's trying to get into that 20%. But if you can find the margins a little bit higher than the 20%, you can do, a deal a month and be relevant and still be full time.
terrific. Okay. Tell us about your very first sale.
Yeah.
That must have been very satisfying,
Well,
right?
it was satisfying in that I finally got a sale, because I really, in 2008, with the market collapsed and the global financial markets just failing everywhere. Canada, back then, believe it or not, a fellow by the name of Mark Carney was head of the Bank of Canada. And he actually, unbeknownst to many Canadians at that time, he is our prime minister right now.
Oh,
And thank
really?
God we have him. He was the leader of the Bank of Canada, and he helped steered Canada. We had, at that point in 2008, we were the top five, probably the fifth strongest country in the world. And but largely because of Mark Carney guiding us out of the global situation, the financial collapse that the Freddie Mae and Fannie Mac situation caused in the States.
Yeah.
And Mark Carney was the one
That's
that
tough.
helped us helped us get through it. And here he is once again at another uh, really, really challenging time in our Canadian history. But yeah.
That's great. Okay. So what do you do when a client is about to sign on the
Well,
dotted
my
line? Oh,
so
your
my
first
first
sale.
my
Yeah.
first deal.
Okay.
So I got, you never get leads. It's very difficult to get a lead, but I actually got a lead from my very first deal from my office. And I was with a brokerage that's still in business right now called Blue Living down in Kitsilano on First and Cypress. And I'm backing kits. I'm with a
Looks like I
really
were.
a boutique brokerage, and they get a phone call in, and who I was in the office, and they said, "Let's give it to the rookie." And
Sweet.
it's a lead. It's not guaranteed. So I called them up, and they've been my clients for the last 17 years. And I did a deal in the building that my wife and I wanted to live in, which we're currently living in. We weren't living in the time because we just got back to Canada, and we didn't, we're trying to build our credit. So they bought into Paris Place, which is in International Village. The Paris Place was built in 1995, and it's
In
attached to this.
Vancouver.
Yeah, in downtown Vancouver. It's a
Right.
new neighborhood called Crosstown. It's about a block from Rogers Arena, and it's attached to the Stadium SkyTrain station. And I got them into the building that my wife and I would move in 2 years later, and have been there now 13 years. And I've done 27 deals in Paris Place since.
Wow.
So it really started everything for me. But that was a great question, though, Johnny. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Great answer. Okay, so picking up from the previous question, what do you do when a client is about to sign on the dotted line and suddenly gets cold feet?
Well, it doesn't happen very often
Mm,
because there is a very succinct, set of steps that you must go through. Specifically now, with all the policymakers, and everybody's got their hands in the real estate markets industry, and of course, those pockets used to be very full back in the day, and they're not that full now. But essentially, when you get a client, there's a series of documents, and essentially, to get the ball rolling, you have to explain to your clients the fiduciary duty that a realtor has for their clients under the um, the auspices of their brokerage, where they hang their license. So I get my license myself. I pay for that license. I study for that license. All the costs are a burden to me. And then when I finally get my license, now I've got to find a brokerage. So I found Blue Living. So under Blue Living, they give me terms and details. We work out on how we're going to do business, where I hang my license, what are the rules and regulations of that brokerage. And then through BCREA, when I mentioned earlier, when we started the show, I mentioned CREA, which is the Canadian Real Estate Association. BCREA is the British Columbia Real Estate Association. Well, within those different groups and all the policymakers in all three levels of government, as well as the CMHC and the Bank of Canada, it's quite convoluted. There are so many things going on that
that's an understatement.
initially, in its infancy, you just start off with your client, you sit down with coffee with them, you explain to them the relationship, the agency relationship that I have with them, representing their best interests with my fiduciary duty under the rules and regulations of BCREA and CREA, as well as the various boards of British Columbia. There's 12 real estate boards in British Columbia. Now there's only 8. At the end of the day, and maybe we can talk about that later in the interview, it really should be only one board. Having 12 different boards or 8 different boards is not beneficial to everybody. It should be one board, one set of rules, and it would be a lot
One
easier.
ring to rule them all.
I'm telling you, it's that simple. So, anyways, getting back to the clients, they sign the documents. If they feel comfortable with you, we move forward and I try to find them a property. And if at any time things don't work out, those clients can walk,
Oh,
and there's nothing. And well, I want them to be able to make their choice. They can do whatever they like, and hopefully they enjoy the relationship, they enjoy the experience, they enjoy the agency, and they enjoy the work that my brokerage and representing my brokerage provide them in their new investment property. So it is a very succinct, systematic process, and once you understand that, it's actually quite easy to settle in. But again, it's just there's so much information and education, and all parties need to be educated, and specifically our clients, the consumers.
right. Terrific. Okay. You touched on this earlier. How has your industry changed since the advent of the internet and social media?
Well, I mean, I came into the industry in 2008, where YouTube had just barely started a few years before, and social media wasn't really that prevalent at that time. However, with YouTube, I saw an opportunity to, and here we are on YouTube all these years later, 15, 16 years later, we have the Canadian Bro Show, and we're talking about real estate. So this is exactly what I planned in my mind's eye all those years ago. And Johnny and I, we talk about pop culture on the Canadian Bro Show. We have another iteration. The second iteration is all things basketball with the Hoop Junkies, Pauly and Raleigh. And then of course the third iteration, which is what this is episode 1. Although I did drop episode 1,
Yeah,
and I
those were
did
fun to watch. I like the whole
did
comic book
the
motif.
comic book thing. It was pretty
Very
cool.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna launch that tomorrow morning on through all the social media sites. Now that I use 9 different social media sites. Back then I just had YouTube, and I wasn't really using that. I did in some of my real estate videos, but that was in its infancy. But things have changed dramatically. Social media is an absolute godsend, and it's also pure unadulterated evil. So it's really an interesting dichotomy
That's the
on
worst kind.
Yeah, it really can be, but if you let it get to you, the problem is scams. And
Oh,
so
yeah,
social media, there's just scammers everywhere. Every
right.
text, every email, every
And
phone
you were a
call.
victim of a scammer recently with
I,
Facebook.
I
Um,
was. And
someone hacked your
somebody
identity.
hacked and stole my identity, and Facebook put me in jail and let the person that actually
Yeah,
stole the
the
identity.
victim gets punished. It's funny how that works.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. You've got billion dollar company, and the security. I mean, their security features are enhanced and they're much better. But I utilize social media daily, and specifically now that I have my own YouTube channel, because I mean, talk about shamelessly promoting oneself. It works. And Johnny, you know about that as well. Johnny is
Absolutely.
one of the most shameless promoter, just a relentless
Shame is not in
promoter.
my lexicon.
I'm telling you. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, but
Or any
only
other
just
con.
for his own benefit, but also for our show.
Mhm.
So, it's really good. But let's get back to real estate.
Sure. Okay. So you mentioned scams. So I actually have this in my notebook.
Mhm.
What are some scams that potential buyers need to be aware of?
Well, I mean, the buyers, not so much. It's the realtors representing the buyers. One scam that realtors get all the time is our information is out there. I'm on 9 different social media sites. I also have 3 different websites. So my information's out there for the taking. And a lot of people take it. I mean, I went on Facebook and found that there was 38 other Paul Bales, and none of them look like me. And yeah, there are other Paul Bales in this world, but a lot of people are just scammers. And so what they'll try to do is they'll call you up as a realtor. I'll get a call, I get an email, I get a text. Hey, are you Paul Bale? Are you a realtor? Do you specialize in any one particular area? Because I'm interested in investing and blah blah blah. And what it is they're just trying to get more information from you. They're trying to get more pertinent details. They're, aside from all the stuff that they already have, they've got the phone number, they've got the website, they've got the email address. That's quite a bit of information already. And the privacy laws in Canada are quite good and very strict. Hello, scammers don't care about privacy laws. They don't care about anything except
Obviously.
scamming.
That's why they're
So
scammers.
it's unfortunately it's relentless. Every single day I get anywhere from 10 to 25 different possible scams, and you have
Really.
to be very
Yeah.
careful. I've got a filter on my phone, and I don't open any emails that I don't know, and I report emails daily, and I block. I've got probably 10,000 blocked phone numbers over the years.
Holy moly.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's quite
It's
a
just a
figure.
waste. It's a waste of time. But I mean,
Yeah, that's
as
right.
my wife keeps reminding me, it's important that we take care of ourselves and take care of
Yeah.
our clients and take care of our fiduciary duty towards our brokerage, and also for me, there's no gray area in my job, Johnny. I follow the rules, I follow the laws, I follow the privacy laws. I really am looking after the best interest of my client, and not everybody else is, but a vast majority of them are. And especially with a lot of the colleagues that work in British Columbia, there's some fantastic realtors out there, far better than me. I'm a working class Joe, and I'm in the industry, and I'm lucky I've been here, and I'd like to be in it, for a while longer. What else you got?
Okay. Well, one of our favorite movies is Glengarry Glen Ross, written by the legendary David Mamet. How
Yeah.
accurate is that movie? And is there any aspect of that movie that set off your BS detector?
Well, I tell you what, I grew up. My grandmother was a licensed realtor in the '60s, '70s, and '80s. She was licensed in Manitoba in the early days, way back in the day. I believe with Royal LePage or Brown Brothers, and then when she came to British Columbia, she got licensed. So when I was 3 years old, 4 years old, I was staying. My sister and I were staying with my grandparents for a short time, and I remember sitting in the back seat of her car looking at a comic book, and she would take me to her open house, and I would just sit in the open house and say hello to people, because people would come in and go, oh my god, look at these cute girls, and my sister and I are sitting there, and I'm like, I'm a boy. uh,
Uh, ouch. I
Yeah.
got a lot of that. I got a lot of "Are you a boy or a girl?" I
Oh,
got
well,
a lot of that with
you had
yeah,
beautiful blonde hair. I remember
yeah.
you. And although you
Didn't
didn't
like
look
him
like a
that
girl,
much.
I could see you had
I guess we had
angelic. You were angelic, Johnny. I've known Johnny for over 52 years. But getting back to the question is more finite is essentially it's an evolving career, and there's never one day that's exactly the same. There's never one deal that's exactly the same, and you're always learning. So it's like keep your head on a swivel, keep on studying the education requirements. Every 2 years there's a systematic cycle of education that you have to do, and it just goes on. What do you got next,
okay.
Johnny?
How do you deal with difficult tenants?
Oh, being a landlord.
I mean, I assume that you've had to evict people.
I have, yes.
And tell us about how that goes. What's
Well,
the process?
evicting somebody 22 years ago was not the same it is now, which is a good thing for tenants. Generally speaking, when I became a landlord, the tenancy branch of British Columbia wasn't the mess that it is today. It was actually one of the better provinces in Canada. I believe Ontario had a pretty good one. I believe Alberta has a pretty good one. Every province has their own way of doing business, but the resident tenancy branch is it's very programmed. There was a way to do it. They had, there was a lot of integrity, and it was really, really good. You don't want to have to evict somebody. You want to do your due diligence. Being a landlord, one of the most important things to do is to do your due diligence on the tenancy, to check their credit report, to call their past landlords, to call their past places
Do you
of
check for
employment.
do you check for criminal records?
Absolutely.
Oh, you do.
I
Oh,
do. I do everything.
wow.
And especially now,
Yeah,
but that was 22 years ago was different. I didn't. And there was very little gray area. Well, in the last 10, 15 years it's gotten worse. And tenants have gotten worse. And some say landlords have gotten worse. Everybody's pointing fingers at everybody else. The entire system right now in British Columbia and pretty much all of Canada is a complete shambles,
really.
and people are walking away from being a landlord. I know many colleagues, many realtor friends of mine, many investors. They've gotten rid of their portfolios. They've just gotten out because of the our current government. Our provincial government is the NDP government. I'll try not to slam them in a negative way too often. However, I'm not a big fan of any level of government in Canada. And unfortunately, they're a necessary beast to deal with.
Mm.
All three levels of government, municipal, provincial, and federal, are completely inept. They have no idea what they're doing, and
Don't
they
pull
hide.
punches, bro.
It's so tragic. But it's a very difficult job. Fair enough. But watching what Canada disappeared in the last decade because of the Trudeau, the way he ran this country into the ground, and then to a lesser extent, but still great, is the horrific NDP government and what they've done in just a very short 11 years. We have a $12 billion deficit, and they haven't built anything. They've been saying for years, "Oh, we're building." It's just look, it's a complete shambles.
Mm.
The whole system needs federally, provincially, it needs a federal office, and it needs one set of rules for all provinces, and it needs to be strict, and they need to hire more people. It's an absolute gong show. If you're thinking about being an investor, I'd highly recommend talking to professionals. Talk to a lawyer, talk to an accountant, talk to people that have the experience. It's hellish. It can be hellish, but it can also be, on occasion, pretty good. It's just a very, very challenging, and it used to be 50-50. It used to be 50% to the landlord, 50% to the tenant, and then the boards would then oversee that and try to make it fair for everyone. Now it's 90% towards the tenants, 10% towards the landlords, and landlords are ending up in court. They're ending up in bankruptcy. They're ending up losing their houses, and tenants not paying for years and years and still living in the place. It's just
That's not
there's
right
no
either.
it's really it's quite tragic. But
It sounds
anyways,
like it's gone from one extreme to the other. Is that what
it's
you're saying?
really it's run its course. It's the whole system is broken and it needs to be completely redone.
Mm.
But good luck with that. I don't know where it's going to go, and it's a very very challenging situation. On the plus side for tenants and rents have come down in some places up to 20%. The in downtown condominium market downtown Vancouver, a very nice one bedroom fully furnished would be 3,500 a month. I know that sounds obscene,
Steep for
but
me.
that
That's
well, absolutely. But I mean,
about average
your
for
particular
Vancouver.
situation, you can't find places like yours
I know.
for
Well,
that rent anymore in Vancouver. So you're very fortunate. But
knock on wood.
a lot of tenants are also very fortunate, if you can look at it as being fortunate, where rents have dropped. That same unit that was 3,500 fully furnished, now it's fully furnished is 2,750, and people are like, "Oh, boo hoo, that's terrible. 2,750 is a lot of money." Yeah, for a large one bedroom in the downtown core, it is a lot of money. And the salaries in Vancouver and British Columbia, they certainly are not high, as you very well know, and I certainly know. So it's a very very challenging place. There's a lot of people vacating Vancouver, and they just can't afford to live here. It's extremely expensive. And that being said, tenants are getting a break. 20% off rents is it's better than nothing.
Right. Well, you've touched on this earlier, but what advice would you give to a first-time buyer?
My advice would be to if you don't have a deposit, you need to move back to your parents' house, move in the basement, get 3 jobs,
Start from
do
scratch.
extra work in the film industry that's non-existent currently in Vancouver, and maybe get a couple of side hustles
Mm.
and bartend part time, get an Uber license, and grind and work your butts off and save
That's
every
actually really
single
sound advice.
it's the only way you can do it. Now there are a couple of creative ways. There's a couple of federal sponsored programs that are completely useless. There is one from CMHC that was beneficial. Unfortunately, they screwed up, and then the federal government screwed up by letting in 3 million people in 2 years, and then losing track of the 3 million people. Half of them they lost track of. They have no idea where they left, where they are, or if they're still in the country. And so we went from 3 million in 3 years to zero this year in terms of immigration. So and then there's been this push for all of the provinces and the federal government to all come up with some creative way to lie to the taxpayers of Canada and pretend that they are solving the housing problem that's devastating Canada and many other countries in this world as the population continues to grow. All of these people that illegally entered Canada or are still here, they need a place to rent. And so there's this big push on developers because the pre-sale market's in a complete free for all. That could be a question you could ask me later. And then there's empty units sitting, and developers are losing money, and they can't develop. So instead of developing for sale, they're developing for rent. And now we have this influx of developers that have all these projects that are coming to fruition, and they're rentals. So it's great for people that are renting, but there's no new immigration. So
Hmm.
who's going to rent those? Right? People are moving
Gotcha.
back home to save money to get a deposit. Now there is a good program, and I used to buy my second property. I used the RSP program that they have, and I believe they still have it going. And the RSP program. So the first property I bought, I saved up money for my deposit, and at that time my condo was 5%, so that was really reasonable. I turned 5%, which was say $15,000, into $250,000 4 years later.
Wow. Good
But
deal.
that's just by following all of the books I read and everything I've learned, and buying at the right time and good timing and so on. And this is what I've been continuing to do. The second property, I utilized another program, and that was putting a whole bunch of money into that I didn't spend on the first property into an RSP account, as well as my wife. And we used that money to buy our second property. Again, only 5% down, and turn that into another 250,000.
Wow, that's incredible.
So we were leveraging a very small amount of money, but to us, working class back then in the early 2000s, $15,000, $20,000, a lot of money.
Yeah, yeah,
And today, just imagine what that money would be, well over 100,000. And these days, if sometimes you can't even get into the market with $150,000 deposit,
no, really.
right? I mean, it's crazy what's going on. So there are ways. My advice is to surround yourself with professionals that can help guide you through this. Get a good realtor that you trust, get a good accountant, get a good lawyer, and surround yourself with good, real, healthy advice. And you'll put yourself in the best possible situation. And then understand the market's ebbs and flows and the cycles. There's time to buy and a time to sell.
Do some homework. Yeah,
Yeah.
good
So
answer.
thank you.
Okay. Um, let's see, what else do we have here? So you have the Infinity Gauntlet of Thanos, which means that you snap your fingers and you can do anything you want. You have one of those babies. What do you change about the real estate industry as it stands today?
Well, hmm.
No,
I
no,
would
no,
take it
no,
out of the
no.
hands. I would take it out of the hands of the government, all levels of government, first and foremost. Get them out of the industry. They're destroying it, systematically destroying it, with all the intentions of pretending to, build and do this and do that. It's complete bullshit. Don't believe
Mm.
it. It doesn't exist. They don't know what they're doing. Surround yourself with a team of professionals that know what they're doing, and educate yourself. And the more you educate yourself, the better chance that you're going to land on your feet with a great team still supporting you, and that you can continue to build your own portfolio. You got to start off with one.
Very good. Okay. So, have you ever found squatters in an open house?
Only no squatters, but an extremely hungover realtor passed out in my open house.
I love it.
Uh,
How
he
good is
came
that?
he he
How
came in
good is
early.
that?
He came in early. He goes, "Oh, my clients aren't here yet. Can I use your washroom?" And right away, I'm thinking, "Oh my god, he's going to do a number two. He's going to throw up or both." And then I got to clean the toilet before the open house, right? So, and I knew he was hammered because you could smell him. And he was really nice. I think he was a Filipino chap, and his eyes were bloodshot. He looks like he never even slept. And then he used the washroom, and I said, "Is everything okay in there?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, everything's fine. Don't worry, I didn't make a mess." I said, "Just please leave the window open and turn the fan on. Thank you."
And
and
wash your
so
hands.
and so the guy goes in, and I go in the bathroom. I'm like, "Oh my god,
Oh no.
it's
And
exactly
you
what
have
he."
clients on the way.
No, the open house is in 15 minutes.
Oh man.
So
That's a movie.
the dude is passed out in the living room on the sofa, snoring. And I'm like, "Oh my god, what am I gonna do? I can't." I tried to wake him up. He wouldn't budge. He was out, man. He was like, that was it. So his clients eventually came, and they were 2 o'clock. They came, and they gently nudged him and woke him up. And it was a very busy house. It was out in Burnaby. And I had probably, God, I must have had 20 groups through that day, and everybody was laughing at him. And
Oh
I was
god.
like, "Oh my god,
He
I'm
was there the
really."
whole time?
Yeah. They his clients left with him there. They couldn't wake him up.
Oh.
And I was like, "Please, can you come back at least and grab him by the end of
You
the."
weren't tempted to just grab him and
No, no, I
lock
didn't.
him up?
Listen, I don't want to hurt
No?
the guy.
No,
First of
you don't
all,
want to hurt him,
first of
but
all, it's my client's condo,
yeah,
right?
okay, fair
And
enough.
and say if the guy passed on the couch.
Is he still working?
No, I have no idea, but I was worried the guy was going to die in the couch. And anyways, I ended eventually waking him up, and his clients never came back, which is really weird. And I got him
Oh,
out. I got him
understandable.
out to his car, and just as soon as he was putting key in this car, he threw up again right on the sidewalk. I was like, "Oh my god!" But that was
Right.
hilarious. And you know what? I've got a lot of stories, man. All kinds of weird
Oh,
stuff
you
has
need to
happened.
write a book. You need to get
Well,
this
or a
down
screenplay,
online. Absolutely.
or a screenplay, because
You're moving.
when you look at Glenn Ross, when you brought it up, I'm a huge Johnny, both of us, we're writers, we're voracious readers, and Johnny's a professional writer. I'm just more of a hobbyist. But I love David Mamet. I read all of his stuff, and that was my favorite
Mm.
movie for real estate because it was 100%
On the mark.
on the mark. Getting
Yeah.
back to your earlier question, I didn't answer
Right.
that. But
What
yeah,
what is sorry, did you want to add something?
no, let's go
Okay.
ahead.
What I have a couple more questions and I think I'm
Sure.
done.
Okay.
What's the most important thing that you've learned about yourself since you started doing this? If you could focus on one specific thing that you've learned during this experience of working in the real estate industry. That you're good at this? That you feel like you have a natural aptitude for this, or is it
Yes. Yes, I
okay?
do. I do only because of my work ethic. I
Yeah.
I have I have a diabolical work ethic. I've in the hospitality industry. I work my ass off, and I was for the most part, I worked in the back of the house, in the front of the house. In the front of the house, I was a professional table maintenance engineer extraordinaire. That was my title, and I really cared about it. And I was working in the best five diamond restaurants and hotels in Vancouver, and that's where the money was. And I realized that my work ethic was what I started my very first job at 7 years old and doing papers and then dishwashing. And I've always had tremendous work ethic, and my grandfather and instilled that in me. He was a retired major in the Princess Patricia Light Infantry, and he did stints in the Second World War and the Korean War as well. He was the Canadian representative for all of Canada for the Korean War,
Wow.
and he just instilled discipline in me and work ethic, and that is the only reason why I'm still in the industry, is because of my discipline and my work ethic, and it is extremely difficult. If you don't stay on top of your game, you'll be tossed to the curb because somebody else will come in
It's so
and
competitive. Yeah.
work harder and take, but my situation's slightly different, Johnny. I'm not just being a realtor, I'm a landlord and I'm a property investor, so I'm wearing three different hats. And then I've got my mom up here in Kelowna, and she's solo, and I also help out with her property when I can, and keep an eye on her. It's just at the end of the day, you have to plan to succeed. You have to
Mm.
prepare to succeed. You have to
Good advice.
educate
Good
to
mindset.
succeed. And if you don't, you won't be in the industry. But it goes the same in any industry. You've got to work your butt off. and
Right.
and I realized that I had to. And there's been ebbs and flows where I'm not working that hard, but I'm working really hard as a landlord. I'm working really hard as an investor, turning my house in Kelowna into a legal secondary suite, and freeing up a 6 bedroom 2 bath house. Now I've got a 3 bed 1 bath upstairs and a 3 bed 1 bath downstairs, so, it gives me a secondary home. I can live in Vancouver and Kelowna, and this is what I do.
Wow.
So it's after 22 years, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be in the game. I think in the real estate industry, there's a lot of people who are saying that with the advent of AI taking over at such an accelerated pace, they're saying that there's going to be several careers that will be taken over by artificial intelligence, and I
I can
wouldn't be
see that.
surprised if that was realtors.
We're headed for the world of the Terminator.
I'm telling you, and of course, you know how that ends.
Not
Not,
very well for us.
not, no, no, it doesn't. No, not at all.
um, what determines the value of a property?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And everybody and their dog thinks they know real estate, and
Mm.
everybody loves to talk about real estate, especially in Vancouver and in British Columbia and Canada, pretty much, North America, the Western Hemisphere, if you will. Whatever's happening in the States right now, who knows? It's an absolute gong show. It's a free for all. What's going on? But it's slightly better here. More succinct, what exactly the question is going towards, what area that you're talking about specifically?
Well, you look at a piece of property. How do you determine like is it worth developing? I mean, do you have the land assessed? Do
Okay,
you,
absolutely. So everybody has an opinion. So as a realtor, when I'm working with a client and somebody says, "Hey, Paul, I want you to sell my place," there has to be that whole process of going through. Oh, absolutely, I can do that for you. And just out of curiosity, what do you think your property's worth?
Oh,
And then I always sit down with my clients and work out exactly what the motivation is.
the initial figure very inflated.
Well, everybody, yes,
I
yes,
can imagine.
almost always, and it depends on the
It's
market.
human
So
nature.
right now, and we're finally in a buyer's market in British Columbia. It's the first time in 20 years. We have more inventory than we've had in over 20 years. It's a buyer's market, but there's no buyers.
Mm.
And the foreign buyers are gone because of the government canceling foreign buyers in Canada, so they're gone. Good luck with that. And then after they realized they let 3 million people in immigration, they decided not to let anybody in because they got to figure out where everyone went. And so there's that. And then there's the student situation that's going on as well. There, with immigration and students are not coming in, and the cost of getting your secondary education. There's so many things going on, but what we have is called a comparative market analysis, or a first price point, smart price point analysis, which is essentially a very detailed CMA that breaks down. And my CMAs are anywhere from 30 to 50 pages, depending on the deal, depending on the property. I'm very detailed. Everything's stats. I do previous sold places, what's on the market currently. I break it down in square footage. I look at the historical stats. I look at the average square footage. I look at the building, the neighborhood that it's in. Is the building a high rise? How old is the building? Is it a 30-year-old building, or is it brand new? Is it under a 2, 5, and 10 warranty? If it's a 30-year-old building, have they taken care of it? Is the depreciation report done? I mean, I could go on and on and
You
on.
need to write a book about
I
all of this, bro. It would
Well,
sell.
believe me, there's millions of books out there on all of this.
Yeah, but not
And
like yours.
well, no, I mean that's why you do the
Yours
YouTube
would
channel,
outsell all of them.
because this is why I'm the third iteration. The Canadian Bro Show is all Canadian real estate, and I want to do, with me, interviewing guests, and I want to bring in all kinds of people like yourself. You're interviewing me. You're not in real estate. You may never be in real estate. Of course, when your first screenplay or book sells,
Oh yes,
that may change. And I would highly recommend, when that happens, to get in the market, especially when it's a buyer's market, because
you'll be the first person I'll be talking to.
well, and just get that book done, bro. Get
Yeah,
it done. Let's
for
go. Let's
sure.
get you an agent. But
Let's let's
in
talk
in
about some of your sales techniques.
yeah,
You want
sales
to talk about
techniques. I
that?
mean, it is a sales based industry, and really, what I'm doing is I'm providing education, information in a pleasant and calming and fun educational environment. I've worked with clients that are a heck of a lot smarter than me, and I've worked with clients that really don't care, and everything in between. At the end of the day, I'm trying to prove and show my worthyhood. I'm trying to show that I'm trustworthy, that you can trust me, that I know what I'm talking about, and I can help guide them through this process. Some of them don't need the guidance; they just like the personality. They like the cat. They like the way, I laugh, or they've known me for 50 years.
Well, you're genuine.
Yeah, extremely, and very honest and trustworthy. And I don't play the gray area in life, let alone real estate. Certainly not real estate. It's, to me, there's one way to do business, and that's to take care of my clients. And I've always been that way. And it's the beautiful thing about that is you don't have to worry about the gray area. You don't have to worry about the 6 or 7% that play the nefarious side of real estate and cause so much damage and harm, and respect to our industry. No, I don't do that. I stand proud and tall, and I'm honest and frank. And sometimes people don't want to hear that, but you will with me. And you know what? I've lost clients because of it.
Really?
I'm not going to take a listing because my colleague has 37 condo listings right now and he can't sell one of them.
Mm.
And it's going to cost him thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And buyers, they have their own opinion of what their place is worth. If they bought their place in 2015 or 2016 in the pre-sale market and bought 3 units for 2,000 a square feet, and 5 years later, like now, they're walking from their deposit. They're walking from $250,000 and all 5 units. They'll just leave it to the developers. Thanks, but no thanks, because they can't sell them. They can't flip the paper with the lift, and so they're stuck. So it's really important that you understand that by having a solid team of professionals, you can rely on all of the advice of those professionals to help educate you in the best possible decision, and often the most important decision one makes in their life.
Terrific. That's great. That's good. Okay, I think one more question, and then I think we're done. We're almost coming up to an hour.
Oh, really?
I
Wow.
asked you this on a previous podcast, so I can get a sense of what answer you're going to give. But some 20-year-old guy or gal has just gotten his or her or their, as we're supposed to say in woke 2025, a license. They come to you and they're looking for that nugget of sagacious wisdom that's going to set them on the right path. What do you
Yeah.
say? You say get out.
No, no, it depends on what. So, as an example, I'm dealing with an old client of mine who lives in my building in Vancouver, Paris Place, and she contacted me recently, and I got her into Paris Place. And she called me out of the blue, and she saw my ads when Georgia Strait, when we used to do ads in real estate. There's another thing that, it's all digital, it's all online, it's all social media these days. So we save a ton of money. And the social media works more effectively if you know how to do it. But she
Right.
called me up and said, "Look, I'm thinking about selling," and I was like, "Okay." And then she's got a tenant, and I thought about it, and I started to do her CMA, comparative market analysis, for
Mm.
I was going to do her a short one, 10 pages, because she's a banker and she understands numbers and she understands the industry and so on. But when she called me up, she goes, "Look, it's my first time buyer, I want to get an investment property, and I want the best deal I can find." So I found her a deal in our building 7 years ago for $441,250. The place was completely needed complete gut job
Mm.
renovation. It had no floor,
Yikes.
but we got it for
Lucky
$100,000
step.
less than what market condition was because of that. And she's been sitting on that investment, and she I think she lived in it initially to get the primary resident status and so on. And then she's been renting it out, and she's done quite well, and the rent's a little bit on the low side. And so anyways, I called her up and said, "Do you have a moment to chat? I just want to tell you about the CMA, and I just want to have a frank conversation with you before finishing the CMA to see where you're at." And so I just told her, I said, "Look, this is what's happening. I would highly recommend that you do not list your place. Right now is not the right time. And then we talked about the bond market. We talked about 2025 and 26, what's coming. There's 14 million Canadians that have mortgages that are coming up in 2025 and 26 in their terms and their mortalization time. It's a whole different subject. And there's a lot of people out there that overpaid in their property and they can't sell it, and so they want to know what to do. Well, rent it out, ride the market out, and wait for a better time. And that's really what it's about in this industry. Is if you're a buyer and you don't have a down deposit, you can't buy, which is a shame because now's the time. But if you can get the bank of mom and pa, or grandma and grandpa, or the rich uncle and auntie, and get them to buy in with you,
The bank of
or
lottery tickets.
or get lucky. Yeah, absolutely. That's the odds are highly against you in that mark.
Be
You
contested
know,
on a game show.
the last 4 out of 5 deals I've done have all been cash deals
Oh,
from the bank
really?
of mom and pa and grandma
Wow.
and grandpa. Those are the only way these people can get in the market, and because they can't get financed, so it's
Yeah,
got to be a cash deal. The stress test, financing. I mean, it's just there's so many contributing factors, Johnny. It can make your head spin.
I can imagine.
And it's really just about it's just, once again, find a good team and support yourself with a good team. Pretend you're a general manager of a basketball team and you want to get 12 great players. You want to get a good coach. You want to get a good assistant. You want to get fans. You want to get a good arena. You want to get good uniforms, a good catchy name. It's the exact same thing in real estate and anything else. Surround yourself but with professionals that know what they're doing and trust them in their professional realm. I don't offer real estate advice via for lawyers or accountants or anything to do with real estate except as a realtor. Now, a friend asked me about real estate investment. I can share my own personal experiences without crossing the fiduciary duty of walking into somebody else's agency, right? They might have an agent, but they didn't tell me. And I don't want to step on that relationship. So it's just about being professional, being kind, being generous, work your ass off, and really try to take care of your clients and do the best that you can. And that's all you really can do in any job.
Wow, that's great. That's it. Those are all my
That's
questions,
it.
bro. You answered them all very eloquently and passionately. And boy, oh boy, you are a font. You really know what you're talking about, which is always nice.
Well, I was a little worried on your questions. I was like, oh, he could hit me up with some stuff. I'm not really, because there's so many changes in the real estate industry. But I really appreciate your candor, and it was a good interview, Johnny.
Oh,
And
fun.
hopefully some people enjoyed that. If you enjoy that type of content here at the Canadian Bro Show, please subscribe,
Mm.
like, share,
Please love
and
us.
comment. If
We love you.
and comment if you have any questions about real estate, if you have any questions about pop culture, about Canada, you're thinking about moving to Canada.
I can answer the pop culture ones.
Yeah, absolutely. And just reach out to us at the Canadian Bro Show. And
Or mutual information.
we're happy to answer any other questions, or we can put you in touch with somebody that might even be smarter than Johnny and I put together. And there's a lot of really intelligent people out there, and a lot of good information out there as well. And so, don't be scared, don't be afraid, don't be fear-based.
Mm,
It is a wonderful experience. It can be a wonderful experience. Just surround yourself with a really good team.
there you go. Did you
Yeah.
bring a book?
I did. I
We like
did.
books. We're
So
nerds.
I'll start off with this one because I didn't know who this guy was. And this book was lying around from one of my past tenants, actually, and in my house in Kelowna. And they left a whole box of books, and they're all really kind of cool books that I like to read.
Wow, that's wonderful.
And this chap apparently is a New York New York Times bestseller, and his name is Harlan Coben.
Oh yeah, I'm very prolific writer, very successful writer.
Yeah, apparently. I've never heard of him. And it's a modern master of hook and twist. And Dan Brown actually wrote that. And Dan Brown's another one of I like.
Da
I like.
Vinci Code.
Yeah, I've read a lot of Dan Brown. So I've got this one called The Innocent.
Mm.
And here it is.
Nice cover.
Yeah, and it looks really good. And I really don't know what it is, but he's a formulaic writer. So all
Okay.
his books are probably very similar.
Mm.
And it looks like a good 300-page read. And I've got 4 books. I'm all behind in all of them. So
Okay, well, I got this at the library today. It's called The Poacher's Son by Pauly. And there's like 20 of these books. It's a series, and I think I'm going to dive into it. The main character is a game warden, and I really have an affinity for this type of story about a character who's basically very decent and just doing his job, and he discovers some mutilated body that's tied into the assassination of JFK. I just really dig those kinds of stories. And
Wow.
before we go, here we go with the pun. Hold on to your seat. Are you ready? Atomic Power
Always.
Battery. Robin? Okay. One of our favorite Canadians, Raymond Burr, very popular and very successful actor who is unfortunately is no longer with us, Mr. Raymond Burr. Did you know, Paul, that he had a brother who's a lumberjack named Tim? Thank you.
Oh, Jesus.
Anyways,
Anyways, this is thank you very much, Johnny, for your effort and interview.
A for effort.
No, I love it. And
That's
this is episode 45 of the Canadian Bro Show. Thank you for all joining. This is about the Great White North. And we're just diving into real estate in Canada. And I thank you very much for joining us. And if you have any questions at all and you really enjoyed the content, please subscribe, like, and comment. In the meantime, our new theme show song I'm going to put on before we sign off. And it's about 32 seconds, and then we will sign off. So thank you for joining.
Cheers.
Together, share the stories that define us. In the echo of our laughter, we trust in the heart of
You got to hear it a couple of times, eh?
Action figures. Oh, that's the next step. Action figures. Toys. Pauly and Johnny action figures.
tales beat through the ether.
Canadian Bro Show.
Bring us together.
Let's go.
Rock and roll. Keep watching, everyone.
The stories that define
See you guys. We'll see you next episode. Take care. Peace, love, and happiness.